The brown coat hung loosely on her slender frame, a silhouette that had become familiar to the world over the past year, but one that now carried a deeper meaning. For Catherine, Princess of Wales, the simple act of stepping out of a black SUV in Southport was not just another royal engagement. It was a quiet declaration of life. Just weeks prior, she had announced the end of her chemotherapy, emerging from a shadowy valley of private treatment and public speculation. The woman who waved gently at the small crowd gathered on the street was not the same one who had stood here before. She was thinner, more fragile in appearance, but those who looked closely could see a new steel in her spine, a different light in her eyes. Beside her, William moved with the familiar protective energy that had always defined their partnership. And he watched her carefully, not with the eyes of a prince monitoring a subordinate, but with the gaze of a husband who had spent sleepless nights by a hospital bed. This visit to the northwest English town was originally meant to be his alone, a solo mission to offer royal support to a community still bleeding from a wound inflicted months earlier. But Kate had insisted on coming. She had stared into the abyss of her own mortality, and now she felt a pull towards others who had faced their own. The knife attack that had claimed the lives of 3 little girls, Bebe King, 6, Elsie Stancombe, 7, and Alice da Silva Aguiar, 9, during a joyful Taylor Swift-themed dance class, had shattered this quiet community. The horror of that July day was a grief she felt compelled to meet, not from the safe distance of a palace, but face to face. Their first destination was not for the cameras. It was a private room at a local community center where the parents of the slain girls waited. There were no speechwriters here, no formal protocols. It was just 2 sets of parents meeting 3 sets of parents. The silence in the room was heavy, thick with the kind of pain that words could never truly touch. Kate, who had held her own children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, close throughout her illness, looked into the eyes of mothers and fathers who would never hold theirs again. There was Sergio and Alex, Alice's parents, Lauren and Ben, Bebe's mother and father, and Jenny and David, Elsie's parents. For over an hour, the prince and princess listened. There were no platitudes offered, no attempts to fix the unfixable. William, who had spent years as an air ambulance pilot and understood the jagged edges of trauma, sat in respectful silence as the stories poured out. Kate reached out, her touch gentle, her eyes welling with tears that she did not try to hide. In a moment that transcended royalty, Lauren King, Bebe's mother, presented them with small, handmade friendship bracelets bearing her daughter's name. It was a gesture of profound grace from a woman who had lost everything. With trembling hands, Kate accepted the bracelet and fastened it around her wrist. William did the same. In that small act, they were no longer the Prince and Princess of Wales. They were simply 2 people who had shown up, carrying the weight of their own recent battles, to witness the unbearable sorrow of others. Leaving the private sanctuary of the bereaved families, William and Kate walked the short distance to the Southport Community Center. The atmosphere shifted from intimate grief to a different kind of rawness. Inside, a group of emergency responders, the police officers, paramedics, and firefighters who had run towards the unfolding massacre on July 29th, waited to meet them. These were the first responders who had arrived at the dance studio to find a scene of unimaginable chaos, their training colliding with the reality of tiny, injured bodies. For many, the trauma had not faded. It had calcified, impacting their mental health and their ability to return to a normal life. As the royals entered, a palpable tension hung in the air. These men and women were not starstruck. They were exhausted, haunted. William and Kate moved through the room, speaking to each one individually. William, and drawing on his own experience flying search and rescue missions, spoke their language. He knew the weight of a uniform, the pressure to remain stoic. "You're all heroes," he told them, his voice firm with conviction. But his next words carried the wisdom of someone who understood the hidden cost of such heroism. "Please make sure you look after yourselves. Please take your time. Don't rush back to work," he urged them, acknowledging that the psychological scars were as real as any physical wound. Kate moved beside him, her presence quiet but potent. She spoke with a softness that disarmed them, thanking them not just for their actions on the day, but for the ongoing support they provided to the community in the months since. She could see the strain etched on their faces, the way some struggled to maintain their composure while recounting the horror. In that moment, royal protocol, which dictates a formal distance, simply evaporated. Seeing an emergency worker's emotions begin to crack, Kate did not wait for a hand to be offered. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around them in a warm, sincere embrace. She moved to another, and then another, offering hugs that were not staged for a photo op, but were genuine human connections. The chief fire officer for Merseyside later recalled the moment, noting that she had broken off from the main group and returned specifically to comfort those who were struggling, a gesture that showed a deeply caring and empathetic side. The day moved towards its final and most symbolic destination, Churchtown Primary School. Yes, this was the school where Alice and Baby had been pupils, their laughter once echoing through its corridors. The community, determined to fight back against the darkness, had rallied to build a new playground in their memory, a vibrant, joyful space that would stand as a testament to resilience and love. The fundraising appeal had touched hearts across the nation, and even the prince and princess had made a private donation to help make it a reality. Now, they were here to see it, to dedicate it, and to meet the children who would play there. As Kate and William walked through the school gates, the weight of the day was evident on their faces. The private meetings with the parents, the raw emotion of the responders, it had all taken its toll. Yet as they approached the new playground, a shift occurred. The sound of children's voices, attentive at first but growing stronger, filled the air. They met the pupils, the classmates and friends of the three girls who were no longer with them. The prince and princess knelt down to speak to them at eye level, asking about their favorite parts of the playground, listening to their shy answers. It was a master class in empathy, showing a genuine interest in the small world of each child they encountered. They saw the head teacher, Ginny Payne, whom they knew had run the London Marathon to raise funds for this very project. Then it was time for William to speak. He stood before the assembled crowd, the new playground a colorful and hopeful backdrop. His speech was not a distant, formal address. It was a heartfelt message from one parent to a community of parents and children. He spoke directly to Sergio and Alex, Lauren and Ben, and Jenny and David, acknowledging them as parents united in grief. He praised their grace and fortitude in creating the most remarkable legacies for your girls. His voice, usually steady, carried a tremor of genuine emotion as he promised, "We will always be here to support you." He turned to the children, offering them a simple, powerful mantra for the future. Enjoy this playground. Be brave, be joyful, and be kind. As William concluded his speech, a moment of quiet intimacy unfolded, witnessed by the world, but belonging only to them. The crowd applauded, the cameras flashed, but the prince's focus immediately shifted to his wife. He turned, and Kate, who had been watching him with an expression of profound pride and love, leaned in. They spoke softly, their foreheads almost touching, that sharing a private exchange amidst the public ceremony. Her smile for him was radiant, a stark contrast to the tears she had shed earlier. His response was a gentle nod, a silent acknowledgement of her strength in getting through this grueling emotional day. It was a fleeting second, but for royal watchers and photographers, it was everything. Social media would later light up with the footage, with fans calling them true soulmates and praising the way they looked at each other. Before leaving Churchtown Primary, there was one more poignant image to be made. Bebe's mother, Lauren, had gifted them the friendship bracelets. Now, as they prepared to depart, a photograph captured their hands, the simple woven bands with Bebe clearly visible on their wrists. It was a silent but powerful symbol of their connection to the family's grief and their commitment to carrying the memory of the little girl with them. The visit to Southport was more than a royal engagement. It was a watershed moment for the couple. Royal commentators would later note that this marked a definitive shift in their public role. The days of stiff upper lips and stoic distance were over. In the face of their own personal battle with cancer and the communal tragedy of Southport, William and Kate had embraced a new era of emotional openness. They had spoken of fear, love, gratitude, and healing, words that humanized the monarchy and brought it closer to the people it served. As their car pulled away, the people of Southport were left with the memory of a princess who had just finished chemotherapy, wearing a dead child's name on her wrist, hugging their heroes and crying with their parents. The regal welcome had indeed ended in tears, but they were not tears of sorrow alone. They were tears of shared humanity, of acknowledged pain, and of a quiet, unshakable promise that love would always, in the end, overcome tragedy.